Hi, my name is Chris Hatch. I'm with Forza Development, and I'm standing today in front of our building in West Valley City, Utah. As you can see, it's a beautiful building that we've constructed. We actually closed on this piece of ground in January of 23. We hired a contractor in March of 23, and part of the reason we hired a contractor in March, we weren't ready to start work until May, but we needed to hire a contractor so that they could contract with our electrician, because the lead time for the switch gear and the panels for this building was a 1-year lead time. So we signed our contractor up in March, and then we started construction in May. We are currently losing on this building $17,520 per month. Now, the reason we're losing that money is because we bought this piece of property, and look at all that goes into building this building, whether it's footings, foundation, site work, framing, brick, exterior, the nichiha, the steel awnings. Think about all the different trades that come on and off this site. We purchased the property cash, and then we took out a construction loan with the bank. Our construction loan ended up being about 55% loan to cost here. And so when I say that we're losing $17,520 per month, what we're losing it on is our dead interest expense, because as you can see, this building is 100% complete. It's done. Some of these tenants like 𝗡𝗘𝗪𝗦𝗟𝗘𝗧𝗧𝗘𝗥 have fully finished their build out, and we can't even open the building. So we're not getting any rent attached to this property.
And it's actually the switchgear. That's the problem right now today, is that there's these massive delays with switchgear that are going in the United States right now.
All right, what's switchgear?
So power comes in from the grid to the transformer, from the transformer to the meter, which makes sense. That's what the power company comes and reads to determine how much power you use in a month. And then from the meter, it goes to the switchgear. The switchgear is where the power comes to your building. So this is usually cabinetry that sits flush or on the back of the building or one of the sides of the building most of the time. Originally ordered my switchgear a year ago, April of 2023. I was told that there was a 1-year lead time. We set a schedule with my contractor to have the building more or less complete right in April of 2024. So that the switchgear would then arrive and we could power up the building, and then the tenants could step in and do their individual build out. The supply house called my electrician, who called my general contractor, who called me and said it might be up to 1 more year.
This has been a fascinating couple of buildings to build. We primarily have been focused on single tenant buildings at Forza since we started the company and started doing ground up in 2020. Prior to that, we had bought a lot of existing multi-tenant, both on anchored strip centers as well as shadow anchored shopping centers, stuff next to Kroger's, things like that, and then rehab them. So we are not new to multi-tenant work in general. But we had not built ground-up multi-tenant. And so this West Valley building and the St. George building were kind of a new foray for us. And it was just kind of an interesting process, because typically what we're delivering on these single-tenant buildings from a electrical requirement standpoint is usually 400 to 600 amps is sufficient to run all the equipment that exists for a Dutch Bros, for a Starbucks, Jack in the Box, quick car wash a lot of the time. And so the service was just much lower. And so once we moved into the 3-tenant building in St. George and the 4-tenant building in St. George, it was the first time we had a larger electrical requirement going into the building. And we did our normal process, which was contract with our general contractor. Our general contractor contracted with the electrician contracted with the supply house, and the supply house, in theory, signed some version of a manufacturing agreement with the manufacturer. Of course, there's only a couple of manufacturers of pretty much all electrical components throughout North America. And so once we got to a point, for example, on the West Valley building, where we were told it was a 1-year lead time, and we ordered that in March of 2023, and then we started the site work in the spring. We started going vertical on that building in July, August, finished all of the vertical improvements, 100%, every single thing done on the building in March 24, and to be told at the end of February, start of March, hey, it might be another 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, longer, we don't really know. It's pretty disturbing, right? I mean, at the end of the day, nobody really teaches you how to be a developer. I know there's MRED programs, which are really wonderful programs, and they teach you a lot of things about theory. They teach you a lot of things from a macro standpoint as to what trends are in the marketplace or what things you might want to pay attention to. But there's no course that is covered here. There's no educational background that tells you once you get to this point and you are under contract with your contractor, who's under contract with the electrician, who's under contract with the supply house, and the supply house is speaking to the manufacturer, and the manufacturer says, hey, we have no idea when your equipment's going to get there. Not sure what to do. So I basically took to the keyboard and got going and just started typing away. I was using Twitter, I was using LinkedIn, I picked up the phone, I was calling, texting, emailing every single human being I could find that would talk to. And I was asking them, where could we source 1600 amp gear, which was destined for our West Valley City project. And then shortly after that, like a few weeks after that, we found out our gear, our 1200 amp gear for St. George was also more or less indefinitely delayed. And so I was asking anybody, anywhere on planet Earth, how do I source this gear? And that really became almost my entire springtime project. I actually accomplished very little else other than just spending time trying to figure out where the electrical could come from. That being said, I don't feel like an exceptionally bright person, and I am not an electrician. I am not a global supply chain expert. I mean, you know, I went to school with a business administration and finance degree, undergrad at a state college here, the University of Utah. Nobody has ever taught me anything about this. I just had to go try to figure it out. And I think at the end of the day, one of the most rewarding parts about development for me is development is solving huge puzzles. Sometimes they're small puzzles, sometimes they're medium-sized puzzles, and sometimes big. But you're constantly solving problems. And I think I have a good brain for development because I just am relentless in trying to find the answer. I will never quit. I just keep searching until I find something that's a better answer than what I had before. And that really is where we ended up here. And I figured out through the process of a lot of phone calls and a lot of discussion with people who are much more knowledgeable in the subject than I am, that there were more or less 5 manufacturers in all of North America for these components. And then I figured out that 2 of them, both Siemens and Eaton, had facilities that were located in Juarez, Mexico. And I remembered that my good friend had some factories in Juarez. And I thought to myself, what are the odds that the factory manager for my friend's factories would know the factory manager for the Siemens and the Eaton factories? I mean, it can't be that big of a place in Juarez. They probably know each other. Maybe there's some chamber of commerce that they're all buddies with, and members of. And so I reached out to my friend, and lo and behold, it actually ended up being a decent path. And so that is the route we ended up going, and we got in touch with the right people. We were able to source 1600 amp gear that was supposed to go to West Valley. We were really thrilled once it all kind of got put together. And then we probably had the point which was the lowest of lows for us. That point occurred in June. The switchgear, the 1600 amp switchgear, was received at my friend's factories in Mexico, and it was going through the import-export process, and it was going over to El Paso so we could pick it up from the logistics center. And somebody didn't strap it down properly, and the gear tipped over and broke a bunch of components on it. Hands down, the lowest of lows. Through this entire process, I mean, the communication's pretty labored with most of the people that were involved at my friend's factory. They do other things there at the factory. They don't source electrical gear for people like me. That's not what they do for a living. And so it was really challenging because we hadn't, here we were so close to solving the problem, and then it was like so hopelessly far away. And again, back to the first point, I don't source electrical gear for a living. I don't know how to do this, and I certainly don't know how to fix something that's broken on electrical cabinetry. So we were delayed for about 45 days, which was really painful and tough and challenging. And, I think it was, really last week, I really sat down with our team and I challenged our team, look, at the end of the day, we don't have a crystal clear path that all this stuff is fixed. We can't really get great communication. We're not really sure where it's at. That's it. We just got to go to El Paso. We got to go figure this out ourselves. We may have to go over to Juarez, whatever it takes. And so happy for great teammates. Brendan Malili and Tanner Curtis jumped in one of our trucks, ran down there with a flatbed trailer, and coordinated with our local folks. Everybody got it done. We got it through customs just fine. It was at the logistics supply place. And part of the reason you see 95 straps strapped on this thing is because we had a lot of apprehension and fear that it might fall over.
Yeah, so Friday we figured out they were going down there. I went and grabbed a truck, and then I had to go rent a trailer, which, I mean, getting a trailer on that short notice is not an easy thing to do. But we got it all ready. We parked it, and Sunday morning we decided to take off about 5 o'clock in the morning and make our way down to beautiful El Paso. So,
yeah, it turned out to be about a 14-hour drive to get down there. So, normally I think it's in the 12-hour range, but pulling the trailer added a little bit more time to that. So, pretty uneventful. Able to get down there. I think we started like tenants at 5:15. Arrived in El Paso at about 7:30, 7:45. So it was a good long drive. But I made it distinctly with the trailer around falling off the back. So we were good.
we were a little worried about the trailer in the parking lot of the hotel. So we did go get a lock and get it all locked up and backed into a corner. So we didn't have any problems there. We were joking, it was, if the trailer would have got stolen in El Paso, made the trip some nothing. So we made sure the trailer was secured, and the next morning when we woke up and saw the trailer, it was good to see. But yeah,
we're good to go. So the next morning we woke up, got everything ready, went out to the warehouse where the switchgear would be. Were able to get in, no problems, and it was loaded up. Within about half an hour of getting there. So by 9 o'clock, the switchgear was on the back of the trailer.
Yeah, which was crazy because I thought we were going to be there for a few hours. Like, we had no idea what we were going to get into when we got into the facility. And like Brent said, they loaded up on the trailer. The trailer rental company gave me all the straps, and as I opened them up, only 2 straps worked, and the other ones weren't long enough or big enough to get over the switchgear. Switchgear is about 7.5 feet tall, and then it was about just over 3 feet by 3 feet, and it couldn't be laid down, so we had to travel with it upright.
Yeah, so we put those 2 straps on. We noticed that there's some tears in the straps, and so we decided to make our way to Lowe's, and I think we must have went like 20 miles per hour just to get there, just to make sure that thing wasn't falling off.
Yeah, it was about 2 miles to Lowe's, just down the street, and we were about halfway there, and no joke, there was a car accident right in front of us.
And we were just thinking, like, yeah, actually when I saw the car accident, I thought, dude, if any kind of accident like that happens, we've got the switchgear in the back, I'm beating people out, because it took us so long to get down there and have a freaking car crash into it. That would have been pretty upsetting.
Yeah, so we finally made it to Lowe's, and we kind of decided to leave one person with the switchgear at all times. So
that's not because of anything. We just thought, man, it took us so long to, and I think probably Chris had talked about it, 15 plus months waiting on the switchgear, and to be stolen on the back of a trailer that we had. Again, another upsetting moment for us if that would have happened, but it didn't. Tanner rushed in, got some straps. I think we got about 7, 8.
We bought 6 straps, heavy duty straps, and a bunch of bungee cords to kind of tighten the doors down.
So we put the straps on and felt pretty good about it. Went down the road. So we had about 5 on at that time.
We had 5 straps on. We left the 2 that were iffy, but we had 3 more, and we felt pretty comfortable about it.
And then as we were driving along, we talked a little bit about it and thought, I would rather put more straps on that thing and just make sure that thing doesn't fall off at any time during the trip. So we pulled over and added 2 more straps. So now the total is 7. And our thought was, I don't care how ridiculous this looks. We call it the spider web. I don't care how ridiculous the spider web looks. As long as it's safe, it's not going to fall off. And
yeah,
no issues after that.
Before we added those 2 straps, we were going up and over this mountain pass, and I was going about 50, just kind of feeling out the speed of it. And one of the doors on the switchgear flew open, and one of the straps caught it, and it kind of freaked me out. So I pulled over quickly, and that's when we decided we got to really secure this thing down. So yeah, we added 2 more straps, and then we saran wrapped the whole thing to make sure all the doors were shut. And I think at that point I said, Brent, in the next few hours I got to really feel out and see how this tows. And we took off from El Paso.
Yeah, so El Paso to New Mexico.
Yeah, we went to Paso, went to Las Cruces, and then we started heading up diagonal, up through New Mexico, up through Arizona, and then eventually to St. George. But it wasn't an easy drive. It was a little white knuckle a little bit. We decided to go through, I mean, I don't know if we decided to go through it, but we went through the Gila National Forest and then the Apache National Forest. And if any of you have driven through there before, it's very windy, which we didn't really realize that. We just noticed on Google Maps it was a straight shot to St. George, Utah, and we decided to take that route, and it ended up being a little more windy than we might have liked.
Yeah. And you know, as we drove, and first of all, the beautiful scenery out there. So at least that. The nice thing about going through there is there wasn't very much traffic. There wasn't really anybody following us, so we got there through there pretty easily, I think, quickly. But you know, to Tanner's point, there were some white knuckle moments when it kind of felt like the side of the road just this big drop off or something.
Yeah.
And then as we were traveling we got through there, and traveling at night, there were deer staring at us, and we just thought, man, we gotta slow down here. We're afraid of hitting a deer in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Driving through there, I think I spotted, 6 to 8 deer on the side of the road. We had a buck cross in front of us. We really just took our time. The drive from El Paso to St. George probably took us another 14 hours to get over there. And we just kind of did it in one straight shot. We just kept going, and I kept looking at our gas mileage. We were getting 4 to 5 miles per gallon, and it felt like a parachute was behind us, and we were pulling a parachute just because of how big that thing was on the back of it. So it wasn't too heavy. It was 1,100 pounds, but just the wind force kind of had us go slow and take our time and kind of make sure we got there safely.
Yeah. So our goal was to make it into St. George before 1 a.m. Not because we thought, man, that's a good goal and be able to get to sleep. It's because In-N-Out closed at 1. So that was motivation to get to In-N-Out, and we actually got to In-N-Out at 12:48.
Yep.
12:48. So we had our double doubles and our protein burgers and all that stuff, and we were able to find some lodging and get ready to delivery the next day.
Yeah. So we went to bed, woke up around 7, got things ready, and got over to the site at
about 9 o'clock. Our general contractor over there.
Yeah.
And lift up that switchgear. It was still there's still some anxiety just because, just not wanting the thing to fall off the forklift.
We made it this far.
Yeah. But it worked out. We were able to get it off, and they were able to put it where they needed. And I think at the end of that, there's high fives, and TC shed a few tears. And we were glad to be able to kind of complete that part of the trip and get that done. It was a long time coming, like I said, 15 and a half months. And it came down to me and Tanner going to El Paso, bringing it back and delivering it. So we figured we got there at 9 a.m. on pickup in El Paso and delivered it to St. George 9 a.m. the next day on site.
Yeah, quite a quick turnaround, 24-hour delivery service rather.
Sure.
So,
and we figured a mileage that we drove within 3 days, about 1,900 miles.
Yeah, it was 1,923 miles.
So 1,923 miles in 3 days is what we drove to get that thing. But we made it safe and sound. Our wives weren't too mad at us for being gone that long, so it all worked out.
Yeah.
So it truly is a great ending to the story. And it's a testament, between myself and every single person on our team, everybody was relentless in trying to figure out how to solve this problem. And that's why we are here today with electrical gear on this building. The reason that this electrical gear is in St. George and not in West Valley is because last week, again, March of 23, we ordered the gear with a 1-year lead time. February of 24, they tell us, hey, it might be 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, a year. Well, last week, in mid-July, which puts us at 1 year plus 4 months, after it was originally purchased, our gear was told that, hey, we would have it there the first week in August. And so our gear actually shows up next week for our West Valley building, our original gear. And so we thought, well, we still are in need of this 1200 amp gear. Let's send the 1600 amp from Mexico over to the St. George project, and let's try to get the power company there to accept it. And so that's the plan, and that's where we're at. We're really excited about having both buildings have the potential to be juiced up. We're hopeful that the power company will accept everything that we've done, which is another little bit of a wild card in all this, is you got to make sure that they're okay with it. And most excited of all these things, we're excited to get our great tenants open. Starbucks, Cafe Rio, Marco's Pizza, Jersey Mike's. Unbelievable tenant lineups in these locations, and we're so thrilled and so excited that they have given us the opportunity to build buildings to them and bring these new stores to the community, and we can't wait to get them open.